Whoa!
That was pretty good. That was actually pretty good.
You know what? Hey, first off, fuck you, because I saw the one you did with FTI Matt, and you're like, fuck you, nice guy.
Fuck you,
such a bitch. But hey,
that was a good one.
Enough of that,
I was hoping you were gonna see that because that was that was just for you. Okay.
Just for me.
Talking about it while we're dogging on Nice Guy. He didn't want me to say it.
Oh my god, he's gonna say it.
But if you look at the color scheme of his clothes. Ronald McDonald put the fries in the bag. McDonald's color scheme. I had to say it, bro. While I'm wearing the Celtics hat, my ego's a little big right now.
Ugly. It's all right. Philly's on top right now. We're doing good. Heading to the All-Star break, man. Go Phillies, even though we got creamed by the Athletics today. It's all right. Last game before the break.
What can I say, man? You know, Boston living large. You got the Celtics, the champs. The Red Sox somehow are like a top 5 team in the MLB. They're coming for the Phillies, bro.
That's a lie.
What if the World Series is like
not
the
a
Phillies
top
and Red
5
Sox?
team? No, I'm calling it now. Phillies, Orioles. That's what I want.
With that all being said, Boston, who's the one guy from Boston that I want to talk heavily about the podcast later? My man, John Cena. The slow trumpet version, bro.
His time might be up, but our time is done.
There's so much I want to say about this. But before we dive into the John Cena,
welcome everyone to the episode. What are you watching?
We have to do an introduction. We have to talk about Money in the Bank, which happened, and we weren't able to talk about because I was out in LA. And yeah, there's a lot to go on. But welcome to the Story Continues cast. I believe this is now episode 9. I'm gonna have to double check on that, but I think it's episode 9. It could be episode 8. It's definitely not episode 10. So it's either episode 8 or 9. I'm pretty sure it's episode 9. I probably should have checked before we went live with this podcast recording, but it's okay because we are here as always. Long time rotating host Night Sky is back with me here to discuss Money in the Bank, the upcoming SummerSlam, as we already alluded to, John Cena, Joe Hendry, Rhea Ripley's back. What else has happened? We have Stephanie Vaquer jumping ship from AEW and the Spanish promotion over to WWE and already competing as we speak in Mexico. She had an interaction with Damian Priest. Randy Orton might finally cash in on Cody Rhodes. There's so much to talk about. And that's just WWE. You guys gotta remember that AEW is also still kicking, but they don't even have a show until the end of August, which will be All In at the end of August. WWE's next big show will be SummerSlam August 3rd. So we're kind of in this stretch where like a lot is going on, but there's no actual big show for another couple weeks. We'll actually be at an N10 member's wedding, Key's wedding, by the time SummerSlam is finally on air. So like it's a ways out. But with that being said, that long-winded introduction, I think we should just dive right into a recap of Money in the Bank. We know the winners. We saw one winner already fail. What were your initial reactions and takeaways from the Money in the Bank pay-per-view?
So, like I said this in previous episodes many times. First off, thanks for having me back on. Screw you with that fucking joke. And take that ugly ass hat off. Ugly ass hat. Yeesh. But I'll tell you what. I had similar reactions as everyone else did to Money in the Bank. Because here's what I think. You have all your premium live events, right? You have some staples. You got Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam. I feel like Money in the Bank, it's not the same level as it, but it's definitely like a higher tier because the results of those matches have actual like fully direct consequences on like what's going to happen for future events or even just kind of future years in WWE, because you have the briefcase. You got a whole year to cash it in. As you already know, Damian Priest already did that at the most recent WrestleMania 40. I see the pillow there. Very nice, very nice. We saw that
in frame real quick.
Of course, that was awesome to see. And so the stakes are always high for that type of thing. Now that aside, it's interesting the matches, the bookings that they had. There's a big preference, as you could probably tell, and that's very much they're Money in the Banks are very important for this, but they are very much trying to push the feud with Cody and the new Bloodline, and so they made that the main event. Which, I mean, if you want that story, if you're really like into that story, then by all means go for it. But like I feel like the Money in the Bank was that much more, and like it had to be much more like kind of like a focus point. But as I was telling Matt or DK here earlier, or even probably told me, or that's what people have been saying, is that this year for the women, it's a whole different story because the women's, shout out Tiffany Stratton for winning. Which, by the way, you called that. I want to point that out. You said that was your dark horse. It was gonna be Tiffany Stratton, and then I think you said you wanted Finn Balor to make it in at one point. But.
Yeah, it was gonna be Chelsea Green or Tiffany Stratton, and then Finn Balor or Jey Uso. Men's I was very off, but the women, hey, well, what did I say, bro? Tiffy time.
Hey, proud of her for that. So we can touch upon that later. But for the men's, and I'll tell you why, because it's a situation right now where both stories with those titles, it doesn't make sense to have a champion try to cash in or someone try to cash in on them. With Cody, I imagine they're going to let him keep the Universal Championship for, I don't know, a good amount of time. I mean, we already see so many people kind of upset about that too because they want Roman back. Who doesn't want Roman back at this point? But he's got his own story with the Bloodline and potentially Randy Orton. On the other side, with the World Heavyweight Champion, Damian Priest has it. But because of the result of the actual match, which we could get into, there's so much we got to talk about. You're right. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
But you know that the automatic first, I'm going off a win. The first actual official booked match for SummerSlam, confirmed, will be Gunther versus Damian Priest. Because Gunther won King of the Ring, he's now the King of the Ring. He has an automatic chance to go ahead and challenge the winner or whoever has the heavyweight title, which is Damian Priest still at this point. And so I'm calling out, I don't think there's a chance to cash in there because we already know what happened. But even if Drew McIntyre kept the briefcase, I don't think he would have cashed it in at SummerSlam because I think Gunther's going to win it. I think he's going to win the World Heavyweight Champion. I think he's going to have a good reign with that. But all of that to say, sorry, just kind of get roundabout. Because of that, like it kind of was a bit lackluster how it all went down. Obviously, Drew won. So Drew won. Let's just get it out of the way. He said that's his whole plan was I'm going to win it and I'm going to cash in that night. He did just that.
Yep.
CM Punk, comes out of nowhere, fresh out of the hospital. He says, "That's it, you bitch, you ain't cashing in." And he basically canceled the cash in. And we all knew it was going to happen, but at the same time, you're like, oh, damn, that match really wasn't worth anything at that point. Because you have people like, Jey Uso, Andrade, Chad Gable, Mello, Carmelo Hayes, who else was there? And LA Knight. Yeah. Like, I'll tell you what, either one of those guys I feel like would have been cool to win the Money in the Bank. I know LA Knight's a big part of that too, but I'll tell you why it didn't make sense for Uso and for Knight, because for LA Knight, we all know his story right now is he's feuding with Logan Paul. He wants that US championship, and I think he's going to get it at SummerSlam because he on SmackDown he officially confirmed he's got the letter. He says, all right, the match is set to go, just need you to sign it, Logan, blah blah blah. But with Jey Uso, I think he's somehow just going to get weaved back into the Bloodline whole scenario, because honestly he's not. He has his own thing going on right now with Chad Gable and kind of with the Wyatt Six, so it doesn't make sense for him to potentially have the Money in the Bank just because because he's in his whole other thing that he's doing right now. But yeah, even then, like, Drew winning it was cool, but then to see him cash in right away, I know that's what he said he was going to do, but to me I was just like, I know this is first time viewer here for Money in the Bank. This is still my first year of being a wrestling fan, of being a WWE fan, so I might not have the same approach to it as others do who have a long history of Money in the Bank ladder matches and cash-ins. But to me, after seeing Damian Priest cash in, it just kind of like hurt a little bit to kind of see it wasted like that, at least for me.
100%. I think you summed it up very well. My whole takes on the pay-per-view were I'm not gonna lie, I watched it in LA in my hotel room, like on my laptop, and I was skimming through most of it because one, it was late in the night, so I was like, I just gotta watch this and not get spoiled. But two, like, it definitely fell a little flat. I'm always personally very excited for Money in the Bank for the exact same reason you talked about, like just experiencing that in person together at WrestleMania 40 with the Priest cash-in. Neither of us really care for Damian Priest, but like just the height of a moment of a cash-in.
He's getting up there now. I'll say that. I think that elevated him a little bit of that. Yeah, for sure.
100%. But at the moment, we were like, "Oh, Raj, we were just clowning this man."
Like, this man, yeah.
Next thing you know, like, we're all cheering. We're like, "Oh shit, cash it in, win the title, bro!" Like, that's what the Money in the Bank does for you. It just creates excitement. No matter what bum has it, you're gonna be excited for a Money in the Bank cash-in. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, to start there, like, I do think the Women's Money in the Bank banger. Tiffany Stratton, awesome. She's now getting
that was a crazy match.
Rocket strapped to her back. She's about to be top of the women's division. Now, Men's Money in the Bank, yeah, I kind of just skimmed through it. And, like, when you look at the field, it actually had a lot of heavy hitters. I think Chad Gable's doing some of his best work. Jey Uso, obviously, nothing you got to say there. He's on top of the world. LA Knight consistently has been a fan favorite. Andrade was kind of there. We know he's talented, but he kind of, like,
dude,
has still hasn't found his way.
Yeah, I'll say like, and same thing with Carmelo Hayes. Like everyone's saying they both carry the match. I think they did. I think they showed off their athleticism and what they can bring to a performance. But like, I felt so bad because and I believe like when they were announced, I don't know if you saw that part when like they were doing their ring entrances.
Oh yeah.
At first it was Jey Uso and everyone's popping off. And it was El Idolo. And
Andrade walks out and is dead silent. He was getting the Bailey treatment, man.
And all of a sudden Chad Gable comes out. I was like, yeah, you suck. And I feel so bad. I'm like, oh,
Andrade
yeah, you got the Bailey treatment. Yeah,
Andrade
exactly.
got cucked, bro. It sucks because Andrade's so talented, but when he's not connecting with the fans, not doing promos, and like he's your speed champion, it's just like,
yeah, bro.
Speed champion. Man.
Andrade's had a rough. Ricochet and then Andrade, man. Oh man,
yeah.
I don't know.
He's had it rough because he went over to AEW and kind of got that treatment of like, oh, there's so much potential, but he's falling flat. And he goes back to WWE and like the same deal. It's like, oh, you can tell he's so talented, but he's already starting to fall flat again. It's like, come on, Andrade. But hey, he was in the match. I don't know. I felt like that men's Money in the Bank match was definitely slower. I don't know how to describe it. I think you gave a good perspective as to why Drew won it and why it was just like canceled, the Money in the Bank, because it just doesn't make sense for the storylines right now. The Judgment Day is just, boiling. Cody Rhodes is likely going to be champion all the way into WrestleMania 41. There's just no reason for a man to have the Money in the Bank right now because he's not going to cash in. And if he does, it's not going to be successful. Like, it just doesn't fit the story. I do think Gunther is winning at SummerSlam because I don't think the Judgment Day story necessarily needs the title. It's still going to be the top storyline on Raw with or without the World Championship. Gunther give him the reign. But how I feel for this whole Drew situation is like, cool. It adds more fire to the Drew and Punk story, but in a way it also just didn't feel like needed. It was like, I feel like you already are so invested in the Punk and Drew storyline that when Drew got into the Money in the Bank, I was like, why? Like, he's not gonna win. Like, he doesn't need to win. This feud doesn't need the title. And then he won at the Monday Night Raw that I was at because it was in Boston. I was like, okay, Drew's in the match, sure, it's to get him on a pay-per-view. Then he wins it and I'm just like, why? Why? Like, it's so unnecessary. Then he loses it like the same night and I'm just like, okay. Like, it definitely feels like a waste. It felt more like WWE just saying like, oh, this is another thing that CM Punk took from Drew McIntyre, but it's like, it wasn't needed. CM Punk has already taken so much from Drew, especially at WrestleMania, where it was like, I don't know, I kind of see what they're trying to do. Like, this is going to be like this resume of like things that Punk has taken from Drew and vice versa. Drew's taken from Punk, but like, it just, no, man, like, you robbed us of a 2024 Money in the Bank like winner,
So and that's all one whole thing. But now, and this is the other part of it too, I feel like, and you can tell me this, like, is there always like this many like storylines going on at once when it comes to WWE? Because I feel like there's just like way too much, not way too much, but like a good amount going on where if you're watching both shows, like, there's something that you could like pick apart and be like, oh shit, I like this story better.
I mean, yes and no. Like, there's always been storylines, but I think what the difference is with WWE now, like, when I was growing up, it was like, you cared about a few things. It was like, what's John Cena doing? What is like Batista, Randy Orton doing? Maybe like Rey Mysterio, The Undertaker, like a couple legends. But then it's like the rest of the show had storylines, but you weren't invested in them. The thing with WWE nowadays is like, there's like a list of like 10 storylines going right now, and you're invested in like every single one. Right off the bat, Cody Rhodes in the Bloodline, Wyatt Six and Chad Gable. Sami Zayn always has you hooked. Like, he's been carrying the mid card with Braun Breaker. That's a storyline right there. You have the Judgment Day, Liv Morgan, like, you name it. The storylines keep going. Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley is like a separate story. Like, you're invested in the whole show practically. So yes, but no. Like, this is definitely, in my opinion, I can't think about the Attitude Era, but I actually think the Attitude Era was very much of the same when I was growing up. It's like you're invested in Stone Cold, The Rock, Mankind, and then the rest of the show is like, DX and a bunch of mid-carders. So it's like you didn't care. I think this is the most well-rounded WWE's ever been, where like top to bottom throughout the show, you are invested. You want to know what's going to happen to Sami Zayn. You want to know what's going to happen to Jey Uso. You want to know what's going to happen to the Judgment Day, to Cody Rhodes, to the Bloodline, even Tonga Loa. Botching the low blows. Like, you're still invested. You're clowning on him. There's so much talent And oh my god, one other thing we didn't even mention at the top of the show, they're also invested outside of WWE now. There was some NXT talent that just competed in TNA. We talked about Joe Hendry, and we'll mention a little bit more about that later, again appearing in NXT. But I think one of the other coolest story developments that we didn't even mention was AJ Styles and Iyo Sky competing in Japan.
New Japan, dude.
Representing
Crazy.
WWE. It's like, that's even more shit to be invested in. Like, WWE is at a high right now. And this comes from someone who's like loved AEW. I'm more invested in WWE once again than I am AEW.
Yeah, fuck
AEW. I'm not hating on AEW.
I'm kidding.
It's just WWE is like peak, bro. WWE is on the ball right now. But you were about to say something.
No, yeah. So I asked that question in specifics. Solely because we didn't even mention it either too. But guess who's back in the fray now? Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is also back in the fray. He's kind of mixing up with CM Punk and Drew McIntyre again because of the World Heavyweight Championship. So I feel like you can insert someone in at any point and be like, oh yeah, this is gonna make sense. And hey, Triple H, I fully trust him. I know he knows what he's doing, and he's been this year already has been like, you know, banger after banger after banger. Obviously, with Sheamus too. We were about Sheamus too. Oh my god,
it's a deep roster, bro.
Exactly. So like, it's cool to see that. All from my perspective too. I just like watching all these storylines. But I'd say just to kind of wrap up the Money in the Bank segment to a little bit. Two things I do want to say, and you can add on it afterwards. Speaking of Sami Zayn, I know a lot of people are still pissed off that he's still champion because they wanted Braun Breaker. I think I sent Matt DK a picture. I don't know, I guess it was at some sort of event. There's a photo of Braun Breaker. I forget who he was with, but he had the Universal title on, like just, you know, probably for just pics and promos. And he's like, it's too soon. And I agree. I think it's too soon for him to have a championship of that caliber. But I don't think it's too soon for him to have a championship. I think he definitely needs one. And I don't know if they, because I saw, I believe tomorrow night's Raw episode is advertised. It'll be Ilya Dragunov versus Sami Zayn for the actual title. And I feel like that is kind of, people are saying, oh, what if it's just going to become for SummerSlam a triple threat match with those two and Braun Breaker included, just so that way you have something to kind of riff off of, like, for that storyline. And I think at that point, maybe it'll change hands. We can talk about that a little bit later. But that's one thing. I still love Sami Zayn. I think Sami Zayn's really cool. But I could kind of understand some people's, not frustration, but I guess disappointment. Because I saw the meme where, like, you know, Braun Breaker does all like these powerful, fast moves, and then all of a sudden, Sami Zayn just does one Helluva kick and knocks him out. I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm like, that's it. I'm like, all right, well, okay, I kind of get it. Yeah. But I mean, hey, it is what it is for that. The other thing I did want to say too is just going to the main event of Money in the Bank with the Bloodline versus Cody, Kevin Owens, and Randy Orton. I thought, one, it was cool to see Jacob Fatu in the ring. I really enjoyed seeing what he could bring to the actual, I guess, feel of WWE, and seeing how, you know, berserk and like how like strong berserkly strong, maybe, I don't know if that's a word, but it was cool to see him do that. And Solo, no aura Solo, man. I can't tell you, man. I can't tell you, dude. There's something about it, and the advertisement for SummerSlam has him in the whip with his boys Tongaloa and oh my god, Tongaloa. Tama Tonga, you see, exactly. I'm forgetting the name. I feel like him in the ring. And of course, Jacob Fatu. It was cool to see them like, kind of in the promo. But like, dude, I'm sorry, man. He's got like no aura. I'm sorry. Solo just has no aura, man. I have to say it. And I know Roman is gonna come back at some point. We all know this. And you know, there's gonna be some sort of huge Bloodline Civil War. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be cinema. But as of right now, Solo just is not doing it for me, man. It just is what it is.
Yeah. Well, I remember WrestleMania 39 when Solo Sikoa like was around. Like, he had aura, but I feel like I made this point a couple times. Is like, he just went on this disgusting losing streak and sapped any aura he had, and I feel like he just still has yet to recover. Like, he's gonna be more than likely, as we're alluding to already, fighting Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam. Pretty much confirmed at this point. Does anyone really think Solo Sikoa is winning the title? No.
No.
Like, and I think the most dangerous thing is, as you mentioned, Jacob Fatu. I think it was very needed for him to join the Bloodline because they were just lacking aura as a group, and now with him in it, they feel legit. They feel scary. Like, it's starting to pick up steam, the Bloodline story. But the whole issue initially where they held off on bringing Jacob Fatu in so early is because they didn't want him to take away from Solo Sikoa. And all I'm seeing on Twitter is praise for Jacob Fatu and just clowning on Solo Sikoa. So like, it's pretty much happened anyways, where like clearly the alpha is Jacob, but at the time being you get delusional Solo like saying, I'm the tribal chief. Like, it's just like a matter of when. I've seen some conspiracy theories that like Jacob is maybe like Roman's spy and like he's gonna end up joining like Roman's side in the long run. I don't know. We'll see. Then I mean, at that rate, like the only hope for Solo's side is like The Rock joins them. Like, they need someone with aura. But I don't know. It would be very cool to see how that all plays out. More than likely, the climax of the Bloodline Civil War would be a Survivor Series, War Games, and then past that you'd have, you know, probably like a Rock match of Mania, a Roman match of Mania. We'll see what happens to Solo and Jacob.
True, but hold on real quick too. We also have something in October, which was just recently announced, which I'm very excited for. What was it? Bad Blood? That's the name of it. And it honestly got me hyped. The promo got our good old-fashioned boy Metro hanging out with Cody Rhodes in the stakeout car. I think that's going to be cool. I think that's going to have something, well, I would have to have something Bloodline related. I think it'd be pretty cool. But they're in Atlanta. They're in Cody's hometown. Something's going to go down. You got to call it right there. But I'd say, yeah, just overall with Money in the Bank, not my favorite PLE of the year. Out of everything that I've seen so far, not my favorite. I'm still telling you to this day, I think Backlash is probably like one of like the top ones for me this year, besides WrestleMania right now. But like, oh my gosh. But yeah, I think this one just kind of missed it for me. And you know, it's not anyone in particular's fault. I think it's just because we've been hit with so much good stuff, like right off the bat, where like there has to be some things that just kind of, you know, plateau before it either increases or decreases again. That's kind of how I feel about it.
100%. No, I agree, and I think that's the general consensus for Money in the Bank, is like people are just like going into it. We had so much hype because it was such a stacked card, and leaving you're like, it kind of like didn't meet the expectations. But you know, when your main event is a 6-man tag match, and Drew had the situation where the Money in the Bank was wasted in the same night, this was very much a PLE that was being used to build stories for future PLEs rather than being like the PLE of the year. So it's kind of just a stepping stone. You see that now, like with how the storylines are progressing. And you know, that's kind of, nothing notable came of Money in the Bank aside from one big announcement, which I do want to get to. But before we do, there's two things that I do just want to touch upon, and I'll just talk about briefly because I know you don't be watching AEW like that. But the Stephanie Vaquer story is definitely very newsworthy. I made a quick short about it. A lot of people are very getting controversial about this topic because, long story short, she competed at an AEW pay-per-view, Forbidden Door, at the end of June, and she was representing a Mexican promotion, CMLL, fighting formerly known as Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné. At the pay-per-view, she lost the title. Literally that same night, like a bunch of the AEW people went out for like karaoke, and like she's there like karaokeing with these people, and people were making memes where it was like they don't know who I am, like at the party memes, and it was like of Stephanie Vaquer like they don't know I'm going to WWE memes, like and literally within weeks
she knew,
within weeks, like 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks, WWE is tweeting that they signed her. She's at a show literally as we're recording this podcast. WWE is in Mexico. She's already competed in Mexico. That's a crazy story. Just wanted to touch upon that quickly. The other one I alluded to, which we had actually omitted from the intro of this podcast, is AJ Styles and Iyo Sky in Japan. Super sick. Both came out with like these Japanese wrestling lucha libre masks. One point I gotta make is, first up, Iyo Sky, incredible wrestler. I think we can all agree that it was cool seeing clips of her fighting in Japan because it was like unlocked Iyo Sky. Like it was like in WWE she's very watered down, but in Japan she just let it out. Like her moveset's crazy. If Triple H lets Iyo Sky go on like an unleashed like reign of terror, she'll easily be a fan favorite, #1 woman in the entire division. But the point I was going to make is AJ Styles. So first off, incredibly cool to see him. I think I saw a stat that was the first time fighting in Japan in like 9 years or something.
Really?
But I gotta say, seeing him do the entrance in Japan, I think the song won me over, bro.
Really?
I think I'm actually a fan of the AJ Styles theme song.
You don't want
none. 10 toes down, I keep it on the floor, whatever the hell it goes. Like, hey, we were clowning it nasty at first. And
yeah, when we heard at WrestleMania, we were like, what is
trash.
this?
But I've watched like AJ making his entrance, and I was like, it's kind of catchy.
Okay.
I ain't gonna lie. But
Dude,
overall, the point for that is that, you know, it's just super cool that Triple H is letting these wrestlers go out to Japan, compete with other promotions, and I think it's, you know, generating buzz. It's cool. Iyo Sky and AJ Styles are out there representing. You can hear in the announcements, they literally say WWE superstar Iyo Sky. Like, that's cool. That's cool as hell. I cut you off, make your point, and then we're gonna go to the biggest takeaway, the announcement from Money in the Bank.
Yes,
that's gonna be a big conversation, the biggest conversation of the wrestling world right now.
Yes.
But make your point.
Of course. Two final things I'll say. One, I watched a couple of clips of the actual matches with Iyo Sky and with AJ Styles. Dude, how old is AJ Styles at this point? Like 40 something?
He's getting up there. He's got to be in his 40s. He can
still move. Oh my god. And then, you said Unleashed for Iyo Sky, but even AJ was doing some like impressive shit too. And I find it so cool too that like no matter where they are, like it could be WWE, it could be in Japan, you know, it could be anywhere. But I love the fact that both opponents know exactly how to play off of each other. And I think that's one of the most impressive parts to me of professional wrestling is just, yeah, you know, the moves are cool and all that, but seeing how they react and adjust. Because, I mean, I'm thinking about this the whole time. I'm just like, yeah, you know, sometimes they probably, you know what to do, or like, hey, we're going to do this, or maybe kind of ad-lib a little bit. But if, like, I was in that ring, I think I'd be forgetting what the hell to do. Like, I feel like at one point, I'd like, if someone's coming at me, I'd be like, and I'd kind of be squirming, or I feel like I'd mess up a move somehow. But that just goes to show, like, the dedication and professionalism that these people have. And it's really cool to see from an outside looking in type of view. So that's for that. And then last thing about Money in the Bank, I absolutely swear. I will say there was a really cool moment in the not the pre-show, but like the day before. It was all over for quite a bit. There's a whole other thing we gotta talk about too. The documentary.
Shit. The documentary is fire.
Yeah, but sorry, real quick about Money in the Bank. Really cool moment where Triple H comes out and you know, playing the music. Time to play the game. And then there's a girl that comes up and she's crying. It was so sweet to see him because like he's posing, pointing at her, and she's like, ah. And then she hugs Michael Cole, and he's like, no one ever wants to hug Michael Cole, and then she's crying too. So I thought that was really cool, and I thought, you know, it's cool to see even more of a younger generation getting more and more into wrestling, because that's how you started. You started when you were a kid. A lot of people that I know started watching when they were a kid too. Their parents would take them to shows, or they go to, you know, live events too. So it's really cool to see that continuing on, and even now, as more popular as WWE and wrestling is getting, I think we're going to see a lot more of that too.
100%.
That's all about Money in the Bank.
Well, aside from the announcement, which but go ahead, yeah, no, 100%. That just, I feel like, adds fuel to the fire of the point we made about how WWE is just like on top right now, man. Like it's reach, wrestlers in Japan, collaboration with TNA, storylines just invested for people all across, no matter the division, no matter the card, you know, mid card, main event, whatever. Like it's just doing a lot right. Don't get me wrong, we can still criticize WWE, as we said, like Money in the Bank wasn't the best pay-per-view, but at the end of the day, like, you're still invested. You want to see what's going to happen to Cody. You want to see, you know, what's going to happen when Roman returns, what's going to happen with the Judgment Day, now that Rhea Ripley's back. And then, yeah, those moments with Triple H, even at, like, just a pre-show, like, WWE is still doing dope-ass shit. And, you know, there's so many young stars up and coming. There's so much future to look forward to. But as you look forward to the future, you have to celebrate the past. And with that being said, as Knight said, man, I grew up a wrestling fan. And the reason I wore this hat wasn't just to flex on Knight's guy, but it's because I'm about to go on a little monologue.
Let's hear
now,
go for it.
I'm trying to keep these podcasts under an hour. And it's funny because this episode, we're not even talking about a specific pay-per-view, but it feels like this is the most jam-packed episode we've had of the Story Continues cast.
I agree.
Yeah, there's so much to cover.
Subscribe now.
Yes, please. Thank you for 300 subscribers, by the way.
Oh, nice.
The reason I'm wearing this hat is because I was actually going to make this a separate video, but we're on it. I'm going to just let it out right here on the podcast.
Go for it.
At Money in the Bank, it was announced by the man himself, who many arguably say is the GOAT, John Cena, will have his final year as a WWE superstar. No fake retirement, no nothing. He said this is it in 2025. It will be his last Royal Rumble, his last Elimination Chamber, his last WrestleMania, and by the end of the year, we can presume that the jorts, they're hanging up, man. And before you know it, he will be a Hall of Famer. Now, let's tie that back in. Why am I wearing that hat? Why have I been saving this for some kind of video? Because I grew up the biggest John Cena fan, bro. Like, you guys don't understand. So, in fact, in middle school, I had to write a paper about, like, one person. And I don't know if I've ever said this, but, like, I wrote it on John Cena. I wrote a middle school paper about John Cena, about, like, investment. And I was just like, this is why John Cena's my hero, why I'd want to meet him. Like, he's done this. He represents Boston. He comes from Massachusetts, the small suburban town, West Newbury. Like, blah, 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 blah. He's my hero. Like, I grew up the biggest fan. I wish I had more pictures and shit, but my parents didn't document any of this. So you all could think I'm just capping up my ass. But I promise you, I promise you. The reason I'm wearing this hat is because I grew up in Boston, obviously. Now, obviously, the man of this podcast absolutely hates Boston. He comes from a rival city, Philadelphia. But the point I'm trying to make is, like, Boston culture is very egotistical. It's a very city of champions. Yes. Like, literally, my generation, we grew up, and all we knew, and this isn't even flexing, it's just the reality. We only knew, like, winning. And one of my actual coworkers, because I work in the sports broadcast industry here, made like a tweet that was crazy. He's like, I was talking to a kid, like a 14-year-old kid here in Boston, and he said he had asked his friend for this upcoming Celtics parade, oh, do you want to go stand in the usual spot? And this broadcaster was just like, it's insane that kids have usual spots to stand for sports championship parades. That is just the Boston culture. I grew up, I've seen 2 NBA finals now, 2 NBA championships, I should say, a Stanley Cup, 4 World Series, and 6 Super Bowls. That's a lot of titles, and that's all I knew. I only knew how to win. And that culture got represented in everything. My dad was a huge sports fan, so just that like mentality of like, yeah, you're either winning everything or you're a loser. Like, it just got instilled in us. Like, that was Boston culture. And when you have the success in the NFL, the success in the NBA, the success in the MLB, somewhat success in the NHL, Bruins out here choking a lot, but they still won the Stanley Cup that one time. You always just had that, like, and then there's so many celebrities that also come from Boston that you wouldn't even know about. Aerosmith, one of the top rock bands ever, hail from Massachusetts. You name it. The Wahlbergs, they come from Massachusetts. Matt Damon, Massachusetts. But growing up, I was a huge wrestling fan. And who was number one? The man from Massachusetts, John Cena. And not only was he just a WWE superstar, he was the man.
He was the superstar.
This is a 16-time world champion. So growing up, not only am I watching Tom Brady hoist Super Bowls, the Red Sox, David Ortiz hoisting World Series, but John Cena hoisting his 10th, his 11th, his 12th WWE championship. It just felt right to me, and I was like, this is my hero. This man's representing the Boston culture, the Boston way, the identity. Whenever John Cena would lose at a WrestleMania, I would cry. I was like, no, you lost for Boston. Like, what are you doing? I always remember it was a WrestleMania. It was a triple threat. John Cena, Randy Orton, Triple H. Randy Orton won. I cried nasty. I was like, how could John Cena lose? Like, no, that was for Boston. I grew up the biggest fan, man. And, you know, John Cena just represented Boston. Even though he went on to Hollywood and, you know, he's probably associated. Like, I think he moved to Florida at one point. And in the WWE show Total Divas, it says, like, John Cena, like, resides in Florida. Like, they don't always acknowledge Cena's from Boston. But, like, here, like, we know Cena's from Massachusetts. When you drive on the highway and you see the West Newbury sign, and you're like, doo, 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 doo. Like, this is our man. The whole rant I just made is, like, decades, literally from a point in time where the Attitude Era fizzled out. Rock went to Hollywood. Stone Cold's knees gave up on him. Like, the Attitude Era was done. John Cena comes in, this big guy. He says ruthless aggression, smacks Kurt Angle, and next thing you know, he's a rapper, and next thing you know, he's the guy. He carried WWE during a time when people did not give a shit about WWE. I grew up a fan, and it was very similar to like being an anime fan. It's like, oh, why you watch anime? What the fuck? It was the same thing for wrestling. That shit's fake. Why you watch that shit? I remember one time my dad bought me a John Cena wrestling figure and gave it to me after elementary school. And my best friend's like, oh, what did your dad get you? I'm like, a John Cena figure. I'm freaking out. He's like, cool. And like walks away.
Oh,
like,
what?
I'm freaking out, bro. Like, I loved this shit, and nobody gave a shit. But John Cena was there for me. That was my hero. I grew up, and I hope just through this passionate rant, you can tell how much I cared for this man.
Mm-hmm.
I would donate my kidney for John Cena. He got me through my childhood. The action figures, the video games, the merch. I had it all, man. And the point I'm trying to make is, this is it. We're now at the time where he's gonna hang it up. He held it down. He won 16 world titles. He did so much stuff. Tribute to the troops. So, like, endless. He might be the #1 guy for, like, Make-A-Wish. Like, he has done so much.
He has the most out of everyone out there, yeah.
Not even just wrestlers, like, people. Like, John Cena. Like, he's now, he's Peacekeeper. He's in all these movies. Like, he's gone on to do great things. Obviously, everybody knows John Cena as just a celebrity now. But I grew up with him as, like, the patriarch for a time when nobody gave a fuck about wrestling. And now to see him hang it up, like, I've also grown up. I've moved on. Like, as you can see, a Cody Rhodes picture hanging in my room. Like, I've got my new favorite wrestlers. But at the end of the day, I do want you to be able to talk about this. So no,
sure, yeah, that's fine. Keep
but
going,
at the end of the day, like, even though my passion for John Cena might have dissolved, or it's not the same, I'm not as passionate as I was as that kid that got the John Cena figure and was freaking out or crying when he lost at WrestleMania. I still know that this was the man. Like, when I was in LA recently at the Hollywood Walk of Fame, I was like, it would be really damn cool if I see John Cena's star. I didn't see it, but like, that was the guy I wanted to see. Like, John Cena is still my guy. And for him to now hang it up, like, I feel like it didn't hit me until very recently. Like, he said it and I was like, oh, he's getting old. Like, he does his own thing, whatever. But now that I've had time to decompress and think about it, I'm like, this is the end of an era, bro. Like, this is it. Like, it is now the Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, like, era. Soon we're going to be talking about the Carmelo Hayes, Braun Breaker, Ilya Dragunov era.
Trick Williams.
Like, Trick Williams. The John Cena era came, and it's about to go. And with that being said, I think there's so many opponents we would like to see him face. And the elephant in the room, I, as the John Cena fan, would love to see him win championship number 17 before he retires. I'm all for it. If he's going to be the GOAT, he needs that record. He needs to beat Ric Flair. But yeah, I mean, it was the biggest news of Money in the Bank, hands down. Like, on a very mediocre pay-per-view, he came out. He says, this is it. Like, it had to be at Money in the Bank. It had to be in Toronto. Like, I'm retiring next year. He actually said it very blatantly and early in the promo. He's like, I will be retiring from WWE. Okay, now with that passion out of the way, how did you feel as a newer fan who also didn't grow up watching John Cena like that? How does it affect you? How do you feel about it? And just, in general, Cena's retiring. How does that?
My thoughts.
Yeah, what are your thoughts?
So, well, two things. I agree on the point that, like, I think that's one of the, and it's crazy to say that, like, that was one of, like, the biggest, like, shockers from Money in the Bank was him announcing that retirement. Not even any of the matches, which, it's kind of funny. But to me, so yeah, I did not grow up watching wrestling. I was very much a sports for a little bit, and then I turned to video games and all that cool stuff, and then I got back into sports, and now I'm into wrestling. So the John Cena that I knew was solely from, well, two places. One, Hollywood, from the movies and the shows, and two, were the memes. The biggest meme of the early 2010s, maybe even late 2000s, was, and his name is John Cena, the legendary phone call. Whenever that pops up on my TikTok feed, or like anything, I'll listen to the entire phone conversation. It is one of the funniest things ever to hear that radio host just go, John Cena versus The Undertaker, or whatever it was. I forgot who it was.
Super Showdown.
Yeah, like one of the funniest things ever. And that's how much I knew of John Cena, was through Hollywood, through the movies, and just through the memes. And obviously, like, oh, he had a background in wrestling, and that's all I really knew about. I didn't know about being a 16-time champion. I didn't know about all his accomplishments and how he carried the company on his back for those years. And I didn't know how much of an asset he truly was to WWE, and possibly, being one of the, a GOAT consideration. Maybe not even the GOAT, right? So now that I am becoming a wrestling fan, I see the impact that he's had on so many people, so many wrestlers. I imagine attribute so much of their success, so much of their passion, so much of their inspiration because of him. Like how many people, let's be honest here, how many people have wanted to become wrestlers because of him, and now they do, whether it is in WWE or other, businesses as well, right? It's because of John Cena that they got the inspiration for that. And to hear him say that he's hanging it up, honestly, yeah, it's sad for me, because here's someone who, you love him because he's such a great guy. We are fortunate, and I don't know if you mentioned this yet or not, but when we were at WrestleMania or WWE World in Philadelphia, we had the chance to see John Cena get interviewed on the Pat McAfee show. He was literally like, I don't know, like feet away from us. He was right there, and the aura, that's aura. That guy has aura for sure,
bro. And he came out fully like in the wrestling gear too, like
the hat and everything. Yeah, committed to the bit. So that's something that I really admire about him, is how dedicated he is to this business and how dedicated he is to make sure that people who are there to see him get to see him, that type of thing. So yeah, just to see him or hear him say that he is hanging it up, it is going to be very sad. It's going to be a very sad day when that happens. And he teased it too on the Pat McAfee show, and he announced it at Money in the Bank. But he's not done just yet. He's got a whole year of stuff to do. And the cool thing is too, he said even after WrestleMania, he's still going to go to throughout the rest of the year into the end of 2025. So, be it as, I don't know what form that'll take, but I'm very excited to see it. Obviously, we talked about too, there's a couple matches we want to see him do. Against, it could be CM Punk, it could be Randy Orton, it could be could be Solo Sikoa again, who knows? No. But I think it's going to be a really cool time to see it. One of the leading theories is that let's say he does win number 17, people are going to say that he's going to by his own accord, he's going to relinquish the title afterwards. He's going to be like, all right, I'm done, this is it, I won it, the next generation, it's your turn, your time is now, my time is up, stuff like that. It's gonna be very bittersweet. And yeah, but I really appreciate the way that you kind of gave your background on the whole thing, because we are essentially kind of two different individuals here. You grew up in Boston, I grew up, well, not necessarily Philly, but in the Philly area, so we have that understanding of, hey, we respect the sports culture, we respect the grind, we respect champions, that type of thing. And I can admit, I am a huge Philly guy. I'm from Philly, but Cena, in my opinion, I thoroughly enjoy what he has done and what he's continuing to do, just above and beyond wrestling. And so yeah, I'll miss him too. As much as I haven't watched wrestling all my life, I am going to miss him a lot too when he hangs it all up.
Absolute legend. And I think it's easy to pick because you already mentioned some of the big names, and I made a poll on this channel. But like when you think about his WrestleMania opponent will be, who his last opponent might be, and you say it's December 2025. I don't know what his last date will be, but maybe they'll have like a whole show literally dedicated, like the Cena farewell show or something, like at the end of the 2025. Like maybe that'll be like his final match.
What if it's in Boston?
But I'm there. I will take PTO and I will drop $1,000. Like I don't care. Like I will be there for Cena's last show. That's like like when Cody was gonna finish the tour, I was like, I need to be there. But for this, it's like, it's my duty to be there. But what I was saying was, you already alluded, like you dropped names like Randy Orton, CM Punk, and whatnot. These are some of the heavy hitting names where, especially Randy Orton, everybody like consensus is like, oh my god, Cena has to fight Randy Orton, like either at WrestleMania or at one of these marquee like shows. It has to be Cena and Orton. And we're spending a lot of time on this. We don't have too much time left in this podcast, so I do want to keep moving it along. But I think something fun would be, we know these heavy hitters. We know the guys that Cena just has to fight. But who would be your pick that might be a little more under the radar, that you would love to see Cena face? I've got two in mind. If you need some time to think, I'll say mine. But if you know right off the bat, I want to hear it. Like, I
got one. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, like I said to you, like I'm still very brand new to this, so I don't really remember every single feud that he's had. But I think it would be funny as hell if we get, how many times would it be now? 4 times in a lifetime? Oh. Could we see Cena versus Rock again?
That's a big one.
That would be pretty cool. Maybe at WrestleMania. Maybe at I don't know if he said he's gonna do SummerSlam next year. I forgot.
He's got to do every big pay per view.
He probably has to. Yeah. So I mean, I could see that. That could be like a good farewell match. Both of them.
But that's another big hitters. There's someone like really niche. Really low. Like you want to hear just personal favorites. Because for me,
like anyone now, you mean?
Yeah. Or... Now it is like. he has a year to fight.
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
I got one.
here.
I think it's gonna be on your radar too. It's John Cena versus R-Truth.
Oh,
I think
the storyline's there.
I want to see that, and maybe it doesn't have to be in a big PLE. It could just be at like a Monday Night Raw or a SmackDown type of thing. But I feel like it would be kind of fitting to have it as like a match. But I would love to see R-Truth versus John Cena. I think that'd be so
great.
funny. It'd be so funny and so cool.
They had a really good feud, and I think it was 2011. And many people actually wanted R-Truth to beat John Cena. I think that was the only time they ever faced each other. It might have only been like a one-time thing. So I think nowadays, even with R-Truth saying he's like his childhood hero, like that would just be, the story writes itself. For me, there's two. One of them is a heavy hitter, but hasn't been named as much as the others, and the other is definitely more niche. The niche guy would be Carmelo Hayes, because Carmelo also hails from Boston. So I just come on, you have to see it. You gotta see Boston versus Boston. Carmelo Hayes is kind of up and coming. I think Carmelo Hayes will get absolutely rocked by John Cena. He's just too small. But I think it would be a fun match. It would be a cool little Cena tipping his cap to a fellow Massachusetts native. And Carmelo Hayes is obviously on the rise. He was the #1 draft pick. I would love to see that. But the other one, this one just feels so obvious, but I don't see it getting talked about as much as Randy Orton, CM Punk, The Rock. I want to see him face Cody, man, because
really,
Cody is just the new John Cena. Right now, you ask me who my favorite wrestler is basic as hell, but it's Cody Rhodes. I'm all on the Cody Rhodes hype train. And I think to just have a clash of literally the mega baby face superhero from, the PG era versus the mega super baby face of the Triple H Paul Levesque era, that's marquee, man. And I don't know if they've really faced one-on-one. They definitely haven't faced one-on-one since Cody's become a star. They probably faced back decades ago when Cody was still just a mid-card guy. But I think that's a big match, man. Cody Rhodes versus John Cena.
I could see that, yeah.
That could be a SummerSlam or maybe even a Royal Rumble Survivor Series, but I feel like they gotta cash in on a Cody Rhodes versus John Cena match. Otherwise, there's just a missed opportunity. It's why wouldn't you let them, or even if they're
the two big baby faces. You're right. Yeah,
you have to have the WWE champ Cody Rhodes and John Cena.
No, very very fair point. And I think just to kind of end our segment on this part at least, any match that John Cena is going to have is going to be good. Let's just get that right out of the gate. I know we were both thinking it too either way, but I think too it's gonna be really cool just to kind of take in those matches and be like, dude, this is and hopefully you're not counting down in the back of your mind and minus another day, that type of thing. But just kind of enjoy it and experience all that John Cena has to offer. It's gonna be cool. Yeah. You know what? I kind of have one more sleeper pick. I think it'd be kind of funny. I don't know if it'd be possible at all. John Cena versus Pat McAfee. I think that could be pretty cool.
That's big. There's a lot of they could go for the money, social media. If they go to Crown Jewel, they could be John Cena and Logan Paul. Logan Paul is always the Crown Jewel guy.
Yes, he is.
But yeah, all odds would be on Cena, and I think it's cool because you do mention that having that pessimistic approach, each time he's on the show, it's one show less that he's gonna be on. But you gotta think about it, man. We still have the rest of 2024, which is pretty much half a year, or a little under half a year. And then you have another full 12 months. You watching this, me, Night Sky, and you are all going to get another year older. And I'm a December birthday. So by the time Cena retires, I'm 25. I turn 26. Cena will still be around. And then I'm going to turn 27. And Cena will only then be retiring. Wow. That's a lot of time, guys.
That is a lot of time.
We have a lot of time with our goal. Bearing any awful injury that happens, don't want that, knock on wood, please let Cena have a good clean year. But bearing any crazy injury, we've got a year and a half still with our guy, so let's enjoy every match, every promo, go for the ride. And I'm excited to know that all through 2025, which will just be a fresh new year for us, we're gonna have our New Year's resolutions, trips that we're gonna take, job opportunities, just all these life events. You're always gonna have John Cena to follow on Mondays, Fridays, Saturdays for the PLEs. That's gonna be an exciting journey, and we'll always remember 2025 literally as the year of Cena. He said he's gonna work 30-40 dates, so enjoy every single one.
Dedicated. Love to see it.
But that was easily the top story in wrestling right now. And as I said, it's crazy that this episode isn't even focused on a specific show, but there is just so much to talk about. We're probably nearing like maybe 10 minutes left in the episode, so we're not going to dive too much into SummerSlam. We will save that for a future podcast episode to preview it as we get closer. But were there any other storylines right now? Like obviously you have Judgment Day with Rhea being back, or any other big points you would like to maybe discuss before we move on to an early how are we feeling about SummerSlam discussion?
No, I mean obviously seeing Rhea back was really cool. I think it's a matter of time. Yeah, really, love mommy. Got excited just to see her back. That custody of Dominic Mysterio match is gonna go crazy.
On a ladder match, bro.
On a ladder match, I'm calling it's gonna go crazy.
I saw a crazy edit where they had child Dom, but they edited the mustache and the mullet on. I'm like, that's crazy. That's foul.
That is, as people were saying, too. Like if you think about it, this could mean the end for the Judgment Day for this year. Who knows? And kind of as a preview for SummerSlam as well. But we already see the tension between Finn Balor and Damian Priest. So obviously, something is going to happen. Maybe he is actually working with Liv at this whole point too. Who knows? I'll tell you what too. I think it's kind of funny. Adding Carlito to the Judgment Day was probably a good move as well.
He's been great. He's the new R-Truth, dude.
It is. Yeah. That's cool.
You had Sami Zayn in the Bloodline, then you had R-Truth in Judgment Day. Now it's like Carlito's taking that role as like the guy you want to watch for the comedic segment, like every promo. Mm-hmm. He's doing great, man. The most recent one with Dom, he's like, that looks hard to me. That shit was crazy.
That looks hard to me. But yeah, so that storyline's really cool just to see all the way through. Same thing with like the Wyatt Six. Who knows what's gonna happen with that? Cool seeing Adam Pearce meet with Bo Dallas. I wonder what he was gonna say. That'd been pretty cool. But before we get to SummerSlam, there was one actual other big story that happened, not on Monday Night Raw, not on Friday Night SmackDown, but on NXT.
Yes, I almost forgot. You gotta talk about it.
Of course. We said his name and he appeared. Because we believe in Joe Hendry.
This is big. I mean,
very.
It feels like they definitely, right off the bat, redeemed him because obviously he debuts in the Battle Royal. He gets like the #1 most famous social clip and he's eliminated within like seconds.
They all start kind of like,
you're kind of like, what the hell? Like, that's how you book Joe Hendry in WWE. And then he comes back. First off, it was Heat Wave, I believe, where at the end, right after Ethan Page wins the NXT Championship, which we didn't even touch upon anything NXT.
Yeah,
but honestly, I don't watch NXT enough to be able to discuss.
That's okay. It was a good match though, and in very funny format. As wasn't that how Cena won his other title? Like when he fell back, on top of Orton or whatever.
That was Ethan Page. Yeah, they did the callback to the Cena with the Shawn Michaels super kicks.
Michaels, man, yeah.
John Cena and it falls on it, but it was Ethan Page doing it, and then Shawn Spears. Kind of with like an AEW alliance, like held on to Trick Williams and let
he's like, no,
win the title. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that was interesting. But my point being, after that match, show's going off air, and then you see the Joe Hendry.
A jump scare. We're like, Joe Hendry.
And then the very next NXT episode, say his name, and he appears. He comes out, and he is Trick Williams' mystery partner. And this is why I'm saying they redeemed him, because they gave him a main event on NXT, teaming with the former NXT champion, facing the current NXT champion, and he gets the win. Mm-hmm. I think that's some big redemption after a very sad exit to a battle royal. It'll be interesting to see if they let Joe Hendry do even more with NXT. Maybe he can dip his toes in SmackDown or Raw. Who knows? I think
Royal Rumble?
We're getting Joe Hendry in the Royal Rumble. I feel like that just makes sense. That's
the pop-up's gonna go crazy.
Big crazy pop. He just has to get there again, just as we said for John Cena, barring any crazy injury. Please let Joe Hendry get to the Royal Rumble clean and actually let him enter. That's just another crazy storyline where it's like the collaborations that WWE are finally doing is something that I feel like Mr. McMahon never allowed. Like he was like, "You're WWE or you're fired." Like that's it. Mm-hmm. But like Triple H is more like, "All right, AJ Styles, you want to go to Japan? Iyo, you want to go to Japan? Go fight in Japan." And then they've been promoting like a lot. Like actually at the Raw we were at, Shinsuke Nakamura was like at some UFC event. I don't think it was fighting. He was just like there. But they like we're promoting it. It's like they're trying to do a lot of collaborations. You have Logan Paul bringing all the social media attention. You've got The Rock doing all this shit in Hollywood. As you mentioned, the documentary, that was big. The Rock brought him numbers. I think the documentary is well over 1 million views.
Really good documentary, yeah.
Very great documentary. A lot of people are like really lashing out at both Cody Rhodes and Rock from that documentary. They're like, they're selfish, blah, 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 picking sides.
It was all my idea.
It was all my idea. Yeah. Fucking Dwayne Johnson, bro. Crazy.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but, point being, Joe Hendry in NXT is big. It's a nice collaboration with TNA and WWE, more specifically NXT. And with WWE being so hot, we are now headed to the hottest event of the summer. What a transition. That wasn't even planned.
That was good.
That just
I like that. I like that.
SummerSlam is upcoming on August 3rd, which is about, I want to say it's 3 Saturdays out. We'll be at an N10 wedding, so we're going to be watching from a hotel room. Maybe we can film a post SummerSlam podcast live in person.
We can do a live reaction, too.
That would be cool. I'm all in on that. Depends what the other boys allow, because we're going to be sharing a room. But
that's very true.
That would be cool. So that's upcoming. We won't dive into the matches and whatnot because we'll save that for the future podcast. But how do you feel? The storylines, we already know some matches are confirmed. Like, again, Cody and Solo seems to be confirmed. Gunther and Damian seems to be confirmed. You can assume Drew's probably fighting Punk. You name it. We got Nia Jackson, Bayley. Don't have to dive into each individual match, but how do you feel leading up to the SummerSlam? Which storylines are you personally most invested in, and what's your thoughts for SummerSlam being the next thing?
So, I mean, it's already crazy that we're already in SummerSlam season. Like, it's 3 Saturdays away, and I think even Triple H said it himself that like these storylines are all bubbling up at this point. I think you're starting to see some things are getting crazier than normal, and you can start to see when it's all going to peak at SummerSlam, and where it could even go beyond that. But I think what I'm looking forward to the most probably is going to be, honestly, just the already one confirmed match with Gunther and Damian, just because I think it's going to be a good match. I think Damian's going to try to give it his all, but Gunther's just going to chop him to death. He's just going to hit him where it hurts. I think that's going to be a good match. I think we're going to get a new champion for that. That chest is getting lit up. Oh, my God. What was it, ground beef or what it was? Just like,
ground beef, yeah.
Oh, that's gonna hurt like hell. But yeah, I think that's gonna be one of the highlights for me. And then the other thing too is just that depending on how much more of the bloodline stuff happens in the next couple of weeks, I think that's gonna climax. Something's gonna happen, and I'm not gonna make too many predictions, but I do think and this is kind of in the back of my mind. I do think before SummerSlam, I think Jimmy Uso is gonna come back. I think it's gonna be, and then he's gonna we're teaming up, and then he gets beat to a pulp, and then he's like, "Don't worry, we're calling someone else in." And then Paul Heyman's going to walk out, and then boom, there it is. Cinema.
I mean, for me, that's my number one hope at SummerSlam. I do think the reason Cody's going to fight Solo is because it's going to lead to Cody winning. This is how I'm going to book the main event. Cody and Solo is going to main event SummerSlam. That's what I'm guessing. Not a very exciting match. We've seen it literally on SmackDown. Literally, when I was at your place, it was Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa on a SmackDown. However, here we are, main event of SummerSlam, more than likely is Cody and Solo because of what's going to follow after the match. Cody's going to win. Bloodline's going to attack Cody. It's just me, Oos. For some reason, just because Jay and Cody are friends, Jay's going to come out. I do think it'll be interesting to see how Jimmy Uso fits in all this because he's either returning at SummerSlam in this moment or he'll have already returned prior on a SmackDown, on a Raw, whatever it is, as you mentioned. But then you'll hear, I was born a king. Jimmy Uso will come out. And then they're still getting their ass beat. And what happens, bro? The wise man's going to walk out. And everyone knows, man,
gentlemen,
the finger goes to the sky. And SummerSlam's going to end with the tribal chief, the true tribal chief, back in WWE. I think SummerSlam ends with Roman Reigns, returning. Back. As a face, as a good guy now, to attack the heel bloodline. That's what my hope and prediction is for the finale of SummerSlam. I think it'll be interesting to see. I don't know if Cena's gonna get a program this early, or maybe they're saving him strictly for 2025. Yeah, I mean the Drew. Why do I keep saying Drew? Gunther and Damian. I think I keep meaning to say Damian, and I'm saying Drew. Gunther and Damian would be a great match. And then, I think going into this, the top 3 storylines are hands down. Number 1 is definitely Bloodline. Bloodline, Cody. That's always going to be number 1. If it's Bloodline, it's number 1 in WWE.
Bloodline
under that has got to be Judgment Day. So I think it'll be interesting to see. Presumably, Rhea and Liv will be fighting. What happens with Damien? Is Finn gonna get involved? Is this where the Judgment Day breaks up? That'll be interesting. But number 3 storyline has to be the Wyatt Six. Like, will they finally debut and have a match at SummerSlam? How will they get involved? Are they also coming for Jey Uso? Are they just coming for Chad Gable? Who are they come for next? I think that is something I'm very like. Those are the 3 that I'm personally invested in, and obviously the top storylines in WWE. And like you said, I think they're either culminating to come to a climax of SummerSlam, or it's only going to be a big development and then continue past that. I just mentioned the 3 top storylines. We haven't even talked about CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins. We haven't even talked about will AJ Styles have a match. Like, WWE is swimming in talent right now. It's crazy.
So much to go off of.
There's so much shit that could go down. The Rock's not even in the picture yet, but you know that he's going to have a hand in WrestleMania 41. So eventually he's going to get involved. Especially if there's Bloodline Civil War, we assume Rock's being involved. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of my little quick Spark Notes rant about how I feel for SummerSlam. I think it's going to be exciting. I think some things will be interesting, like, for example, Logan Paul versus LA Knight. I'm interested to see what the crowd reaction will be, because Logan will be in his hometown. Like, are they going to actually cheer Logan, or are they still going to hate him and cheer for LA Knight, because LA Knight's over everywhere? That'll be interesting. But if you guys do want a more in-depth match breakdown, we will have a SummerSlam, like pre-SummerSlam podcast leading up to it, and then Knight and I will be watching it live together, presumably, or whenever we're able, barring wedding festivities. We'll be watching together in New York, and then from there, maybe we'll be able to do like a live reaction or a reaction recorded and upload it. Maybe we can do a post podcast together in person. Who knows? But we'll definitely have a post SummerSlam podcast, which I apologize we weren't able to get the post Money in the Bank podcast, just because that happened literally halfway through my trip. But I'm glad we got this podcast out to just do a huge summary of the 8 million things happening in the wrestling world right now.
Of course.
Yeah, again, thank you so much for coming on. I'm gonna just keep running with episode 9. I think this is episode 9.
I'm pretty sure it is. I'll hold you to it.
Episode 9. I'm pretty sure Money in the Bank with FTI Matt with episode 8, and this is episode 9. As long as I don't butcher it being episode 10, like episode 10 is gonna be like a big little celebration,
Yeah.
But thank you for coming on, presumably, episode 9, talking about the state of WWE and John Cena, Joe Hendry, Japan, you name it, everything. Do you have any closing remarks and things that you want these viewers to really pay attention to in WWE?
Man, I don't.
I try to give you a lip. You were supposed to say.
I'm trying to think.
The tribal chief, like something. This man really said.
So, or I'll tell you one thing.
Put the fries in the bag.
Shut up! Shut the fuck up! I will say this though: the funniest thing you'll ever see is Tongaloa messing up the low blow. Twice, or not twice, but dude, I'll say this thing. We didn't even mention it too. There are a lot of heavy hits at Money in the Bank, dude. So many people looked like they got hurt. Like even like their heads were hitting during the tag or the 6-man tag match, whatever. It just looked like there was just so much pain. You could tell Tongalo was just like,
That man was seeing stars hitting that shit. And you reminded me, one thing we also didn't even talk about this episode was the whole looming Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes storyline developing. But we've already had so many vent sessions about that storyline. But hey, we told you that shit was going. The seeds were starting to get planted.
Don't trust the Viper.
Here we are.
He had his back, but don't trust. I saw something real quick too. I saw it was he said during was it SmackDown, Randy told Cody, he's like, hey man, don't worry, like all these people are gonna come for that belt, but I got your back, don't worry. And someone said, yeah, he's got your back so he can stab you in it.
Yep, real. And every single time they're cutting a promo or both on screen, like Randy's always giving glimpses to that championship.
The voices, man.
I think dream scenario, hear me out. If John Cena is not going to fight Cody Rhodes for the championship, which I kind of get it, you probably don't want that because then you're going to obviously turn all the fans against Cody Rhodes and everyone's going to cheer for John Cena. If you want to protect that, but you want to give John Cena his 17th title and it has to be the WWE Championship, I think Randy beats Cody somewhere along the line, whether it's at WrestleMania 41 or it won't be SummerSlam obviously, but at some point Randy's the one to dethrone Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes had his reign, whatnot, cool. Then Randy faces Cena for the championship. I think that's the transition you have to make from Cody to Randy to Cena. You get your Cena Randy match. You get Cena winning 17th. I think that's how that should go. But we'll see. We'll see if that comes true or if Cody's going to hang on to the title. Maybe Cena goes for the World Heavyweight Championship. Maybe Cena doesn't go for the title at all. I know he's going to enter the Royal Rumble, it sounds like. So we'll see.
Cena's going to go for the Speed Championship.
The Speed Championship. He's like, Andrade, you can't see me. Crazy. But there's so much to monitor, guys. We hope you are enjoying WWE just as much as us. Hopefully you can tell the passion that bleeds from this podcast from a longtime viewer and a new viewer. It's cool to have different perspectives. And the other guests that rotate in, like Rivera, who also has kind of been like a... It's actually cool. I do want to mention this before we end there. Is like the cast that we have had so far on this podcast, between myself, like longtime committed fan, I haven't gone anywhere. That's my perspective. Then you have Night Sky, who's like, I'm the new guy, yet I'm also so passionate in this. That's a cool perspective. Then you have my friend Rivera, who like watched as a kid, went away for a gap of time, then came back. That's a cool perspective. Then you have FTI Matt just hopped on recently, and like he's also kind of been like, oh, I've been around the whole damn time. So like his perspective kind of lines up more with mine. And then lastly, we have my AEW guy, B-Grass. That's hard to like kind of compare to the rest of us because he's talking about AEW and whatnot, but he's also been around the whole time. It's cool to just have this collection of different perspectives, and that's not even it. We're probably still gonna have more people coming on the podcast, but it's nice to have, you know, different perspectives. Like I said, you might analyze Money in the Bank very differently than how we analyze SummerSlam because of whoever the hosts are for the specific episodes. But I think Knight and I go together like peanut butter and jelly, bro, because it's just two very opposite ends of the spectrum that give differing perspectives. And I feel like the best example is the John Cena conversation we had, because you have me crying. I'm like, here's my Cena tattoo as I rip open my shirt, and Knight's like, yeah, I got respect for him, and his name is John Cena. Like, you know, like it's cool. It's cool to have those different perspectives. But all right, we're probably over an hour by now.
We are definitely.
Thank you guys for watching. I hope you can continue your story. We finally got an outro.
There you go.
We finally got an outro. I hope you can continue your story. And until, presumably, episode 10 of the Story Continues cast, until SummerSlam and soon until All In AEW, for my AEW fans out there, you know, keep watching. There's a lot to develop. Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, NXT. We'll see how it all plays out. What are the Wyatt Six going to do? What is the Judgment Day going to do? What is John Cena going to do? What is Cody Rhodes and the Bloodline going to do? When will Roman Reigns return? You guys are going to have to wait and see. Until the next one, I hope your story continues. And I hope Cena's story can continue
you can't
too,
see
man.
me.
You can't see me. Oh, peace.
Peace
Out. Do, 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 do.